Welcome to another episode of Low Gear. This is the second part of the Takapau weekend, and we begin with the parade of classic trucks. A fair number of these trucks belong to the Northern Classic Commercials Club and reflect back to the time when we were driving British trucks and the old Leylands were the big trucks of the day. Then in the mid-60s and 70s, other trucks started to turn up, like this 1924 Mercedes. Then we have the English Dodge, which would have been what the next stage of Comma looked like. And this one has spreading gear on the back, which we'll talk about shortly. In 1965, the big boys started to turn up in the shape of Kenworths, and they were the logging trucks from 1965 through to the current day. A few shows ago when we were in America, we saw a lot of early Kenworth that didn't actually come to New Zealand. Another popular American truck to come to New Zealand is the Mack. And here we have a couple of beautiful examples of the R series, a very popular truck for a variety of purposes. And also in 1965, the Ford D series turned up, and that was a very popular truck, a lot of them still working today. And of course, the old TK Bedford, a wonderful workhorse from England. One of the advantages the D series Ford had over the Bedfords was it had a tilt cab. This Leyland Ergomatic cab also tilted, which was a big plus for Leyland. The Jail Bar Ford and other Fords of the time helped build New Zealand, and this odd looking truck is called a monkey face, and it's from the Second World War. The TK cab went through the 70s with minor changes, but still no tilt cab. Refrigerated Freight Lines was a big company in the day, and that little box on behind was the driver's sleeper box. Amazing. Panpac was the big forestry company in the Hawke's Bay, and they had quite a number of these Kenworths hauling the logs. This International is driven by Scotty, and Scotty and I used to work together for Prescott's Transport back in the day. And just to conclude, if you'd like to find out more about joining the Northern Classics Commercial Club, just go to our webpage at www.lowgear.co.nz and the information is there. Roger, welcome to our little show.
G'day mate.
And you've got a very interesting little blue tractor. And of all the machines that are here, this has to be the smallest and probably the most interesting.
It's the only one I can reach the pedals on with having little legs, you see. So I had to have a little one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I see your wife enjoys it.
Yeah, she didn't when she first heard that I'd bought it. She was a little bit grubby about it, but now I don't seem to be able to get my bum on the seat. Yeah.
And what did it actually do? What's it for?
It's classified as a Ransom, Sims and Jeffries MG6, and the MG stood for Market Garden. It was used in conjunction with a rotary hoe or a single furrow plough or harrows or discs or something, and you cultivate a little quarter-acre block.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I see the throttle's actually on a lever rather than on something you pull or.
Yep, that's right.
Incorporated into is that the gear lever?
There are gears. It being an MG6, it has 3 speeds.
Yep.
Slow, really slow, and even slower. And the throttle, is just on the left-hand steering brake, and it's got a centrifugal clutch. So when you go to take off, you just give it a few revs. The clutch comes into play and it wanders off. Well, usually where you want it to go, but not always.
Do you actually use it for anything yourself?
No, 100% a toy.
Oh, okay. So you bring it to shows like this and...
Well, it's the first show we've had it at.
Right, okay.
But we've got a couple of acres at home, and we just play around and destroy the pasture and scare the sheep.
Sure. Here it comes now. She's right at home on that, and I see it's got a steel seat with the holes in, like a tractor used to have back in the day. Is that sprung or is that just...
Yeah, it's just on a piece of flat spring steel, you do have a little bit of give in it.
Sure.
But what it tends to do, it tries to buck and throw you off because it seems to pivot along its centre line, and you hit a bump and the back tries to throw you up.
Have you flipped it over at all?
No, but I've had a couple of close calls.
And what sort of slope would it go on?
I
haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. I tried to pull a couple of trees with it the other day, but it's too light. It just sits and slopes.
Okay, just start to dig a hole.
Yeah, we just did a circuit round the paddock with odds and sods there a little while ago, and it even had trouble in the damage that the caterpillars did.
Sure. So what engine's on the front of it?
It's a Ransom's.
Ransom.
600
okay.
single.
Is that sort of up there with lawnmower engines? Do they make a lot of engines?
They predominantly built, initially they built traction engines like that one over there, like
Yep.
Wayne Clark's one.
Yep.
And they built ploughs and farm implements, and then they progressed on to this sort of thing. And I've heard tell that the company's still in existence. I'm not sure what they're doing.
There's an outfit called Howard.
That's
and
right.
They made similar
That's right.
similar little machines for rotary hose and other
That's right.
other uses.
And you can also put a rotary hoe on the back and
Yeah.
power the rotary hoe off it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
just amazing. Very versatile little machine.
But yeah, she was a bit dirty when she found out that I bought it.
Oh well.
She thought I'd gone and planned a romantic weekend away, and I had, but it involved 3 of us.
Come and see my new bulldozer.
Well, we were parked at the ferry with our old Toyota Ute and the trailer, and she suddenly realised that we had the trailer, and she said, "Oh my God, what have you bloody bought?"
Well, there's certainly a lot of machinery here to look at, and so yours is one of them. And thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Good on you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah. No.
Cheers.
I think it's cute.
Hello, my name's Paul Gleeson, and I'm very pleased to be associated with the Hoe Heifer Show. What we're doing here in the Takapau field machinery, we're going to give 100 years of fertiliser demonstration, because there's been big business in New Zealand over a long period of time, and there's been lots of machines that have been made and invented and failed to do the job. So we're going to start off first with Mr. Moss Schultz, with how it all began.
I'm Moss Schultz, Pahiatua, and this bathtub is an advance on the old guys that used to use cut a sack. And they could cut a sack so that you could wear your arms through it and that. Now those sacks I'm talking about are 180 pound, 12 to the ton sacks, so they were big sacks. But this was a bit of an improvement because you could, you know, your arms are free to do the bit. To prevent your hands and fingernails from wearing out, and plus it was an excellent excuse to go out to the coast and get some power. So it gave you some, so that was the idea behind that. Whether you actually do need it is open to argument. Years gone by, on the hills, because they were strictly hillside, you never used them on the flat because you had mechanical things, but they were strictly hillside before the advent of aeroplanes and even blower machines. So you worked around the contour of the hill. You didn't go up the hill or down the hill. You worked the contours, and the claim was that a good, keen man, because all guys that did this were good, keen men, of course, no pussies on the job, they would be capable of handling some 2 tons in a day. Now your product was sledged out to you on sledges, your 12 to the ton bags, and you worked off that, backwards and forwards. A swath, a reasonable swath would be about 20 feet in width that you're good for spread. Rate was, depends. If it was the end of the day, it could be thick. At the start of the day, they may be thin. And then there's a little bit of anecdotal. Some people claim that some naughty persons were not above the odd biff load went down in the stump holes. But I mean, I find that hard to believe that would in actual happen in practice. And that's about it.
Yeah, my name's Rod Port. We farm over the ranges and down a bit in the Bahongana Valley. I can remember as a young boy growing up, my father throwing superphosphate on the hills with this apparatus. It was carted out by horse and sledge, came in to vantage points and then thrown out. They told me the spread width was about 16, 18 feet if everything's going right, but perhaps a bit less than that. the day, on a good day and a really fit man, Paul tells me 2 tonne could be applied. I think if you did a tonne, you'd be lucky time you carted it out and brought it back. The world is full of trickery in those days, same as today, but the old fellas, with the young fellas then, chucked the odd bag in the dam down the Tomo and over the bank. So the boss found it a few years later, much to his disgust. The aviation industry sort of took over at the end of the Second World War. They started playing around, and luckily for the old fellas, they didn't have to do all this by hand work.
With me is Ian, and Ian, spreading manure, lime, it's been something that's sort of gone through New Zealand farming just for, well, centuries really. And we've just seen the man there describe the bucket, you know, sort of with a couple of power shells to sort of spread it out, and then he's got a little machine that sits on his guts, and mind you, people in that time probably never had guts, and it's doing its job. And then we come to the mechanical machinery behind us. Perhaps you can just talk us through this.
Well, they were marketed in New Zealand from about 1911. It's A&G Wallace, Castle Douglas, Scotland. They're distributed in New Zealand by Manson & Barr, who head office was in Palmerston North.
Oh, yes.
So the name tag on it is just the distributor. They were advertised extensively. I've got adverts for them dating to 1912. Seemed to have been a reasonably successful machine. This one had sat under trees for years and was in pretty rusty condition in all seas, but it works again.
So it's just a hopper going through a mechanical spreading device?
Yeah, with two
spreaders,
two spinners.
Spinners.
Yeah, but we worked at a event like this last year, and it worked quite well. So
Sure.
hope it
Cross
does
fingers.
today.
yeah. So how old is this tractor?
It's 1939. It's the last of the
think
unstyled tractors.
You wouldn't think that was 1930. You think of more like 1929.
No, it's 39, and same year they went to farm all A's and B's. But
Oh yes.
this series of tractor appeals to me. I've got several different models of them.
ProTrans. They specialise in a variety of earth moving and demolition options, and they have a great system in place with their trucks to do that very efficiently. They also have diggers available, and for that job that carries an element of danger, they have remote control diggers. So they have everything you need for your demolition or earth moving job. So check them out, www.protrans.com, and give Jared and his team a call, and you'll find it all on their webpage at www.protrans.com. Want to know a bit more about Low Gear? Then check out our webpage at www.lowgear.co.nz. Find out what's coming up on the show, where you can watch previous shows, DVDs for sale, and classic and vintage events that are coming up. If you have friends who can't get Face TV, our webpage shows all the alternatives so people can watch it no matter where they are. So check it out, www.lowgear.co.nz.
Okay, I've got an Ellis Chambers D270 tractor, about 1953-54. It was actually the tractor that really got the Hawke's Bay Vintage Machinery Club going. It was my first restoration. The top dresser is an Andam, which means Anderson and Oldham, and they had an engineering company in Tikakino, I understand, where the top dresser was built. Again, I think it was probably built in the 50s. It's a blower type top dresser. It's got a JAP motor driving a big fan, and the fertiliser is fed through a chain conveyor and out the back, and the tail oscillates as you drive along, spreading the whatever you've got in the hopper. So we've had it going this morning. It hasn't had any fertiliser in it for 4 years. It was gifted to the Hawke's Bay Vintage Machinery Club by a farmer in Waipakarau. And because we don't have regular use for it, it's stored away, but we get it out for each of the expos and give it a run.
Hello, I'm Peter Cameron from Masterton. I'm an avid Ferguson collector. This tractor is one of 15 that I have, and the implement, the spreader on the back, is one of 70 different implements that I have. These fertiliser spreaders came out in the 50s to mid 50s and replaced probably a lot of your hand fertilising. This was probably one of the first mechanicals. It was built by J.C. Davidson Limited in Paeatua, and it was built on behalf of Massey Ferguson, not Massey Ferguson, Harry Ferguson Limited in the UK. There were 3 models of this fertiliser spreader came out. This one behind me is the second model. The third model had a round bin. The first model was a bit of a contraption. You took the mud guards off and you bolted it direct onto the axle, and it was driven vertically off the power takeoff of the tractor. A terrible thing to put on and off, I would think. But every good invention starts somewhere, so I suppose that was the start.
Good afternoon. Tractor is an HD5 Alice Chalmers. This belongs to Paul Gleeson, as well as the spreader at the back, the Hartuma spreader, designed by Mr. Top from Wellington, manufactured by Clyde Engineering. Starting with the tractor, there's 29,000 of those built between about 1946 and 1955. Don't know how many came to New Zealand, but there'd be hundreds of them originally. Now powered by Detroit 271 engine. What else do you want to know? 5 tonne in weight. That's about that end. The spreader end. Its own motor in the front. It's got a rotating spinner underneath. Is that right, Paul? That's correct. And at the back it has got another spinner at the back. What was the weight? How much capacity is it? Yeah, 3 tonne of line, 2 tonne of super. The tyres on this one are ribbed, so you can tackle hill country with it. What else do we need to tell them, Mr. Gleeson? Come here, Mr. Gleeson. I think you should show them what it's going to do. Mr. Gleeson is known to me as the Godfather. He is the Godfather, not only to all the machinery, but he is the Godfather to my wife and our daughter. My wife's and my daughter.
Okay, and this is what come next. This is our Munro top dresser. We had these in the day on that particular truck, 1937 Chev. Yeah, it was a 2-man operation. Like you had to go to the lime works and you picked up bags of lime, you shoveled it, loaded it yourself and took it away, and also the fertiliser came from the rail and it was all in bags. You go and get a load of bags and you top dress it. You do, on a good day, between 20 and 30 acres a day with a machine like that. They were very accurate. You could set the rate on the other side there. Yeah, it was an advancement. It was, yeah.
I remember these old Thames traders, but a few came as 4-wheel drives, and it's sort of good to see one that's still 4-wheel drive. And the spreading was, you know, everybody has to have their farm spread with a variety of products. But this Neville is you. Perhaps you could just tell me a bit about it.
Well, this truck has lived all its life in Central Hawke's Bay, in actual fact.
Oh, yes.
I being the third owner. And it's a bit unusual insofar as it came to New Zealand as a 4-wheel drive.
Factory?
Yes.
Yeah.
There were few fitted here.
Yep.
And the automat spreader on the back is probably the only one left in the country, and it was an original conception by Joe Top's Hartuma Lime.
Oh, okay.
They started out with netting in the bottom of the to pull the mat back, but that didn't work, so they went on to a rubber mat.
And so this rubber mat revolves towards the back?
Yeah, the chain drive there off the wheel.
Yep.
Slowly revolves and pulls the mat to the back, feeding the fertiliser out at the back. And going uphill they spread very heavy, and going downhill very light, as you can well expect. This one, it lay in a shed derelict for quite a few years, and I managed to get hold of it.
So what era are we talking about with this operation? 55, 54, 56?
Yeah, the truck is 58, but this is probably 55.
Yeah, yeah.
54 in actual fact was the first one I know of. and this Automat spreader.
So it was successful for a number of years and then got overtaken with better technology.
Yes, yeah, they moved on to, as you'll see later on, a more revised version of the spreader. And then when the computerised stuff started to come about, well, it was the demise, yeah, of these.
Fair enough. With me is Gary McNichol, and welcome to our little show, Gary.
Thanks, Bill.
And as you've seen, we've been looking at the history of spreaders and spreading, and we've come up to the next version. We've just got out of that Thames Trader. I'm glad nobody saw me fall out of that. Anyway, we've got a bin here which is a bit different to the last one we saw, which is covered in levers.
Yep.
You have to put your hand out the door to sort of, turn it off.
That's right, yeah.
And so maybe talk us through the next stage.
So this is a Pacific Mark II bin. So the main changes were the engine was moved forward out of the dust and stuff. The spinners were put out to the outside, and the back tail door was actually spring loaded, so it kept pressure on when you were going up and down the hill, so it made a more even spread. Yeah, they're the main changes. Yeah.
So you don't have to do anything from the cab apart from start
the motor, and there's a lever in the cab that does the rest. Yeah, just a little hand control.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to put out.
No.
So they've sort of found the mistake.
Yeah, that's right. So this truck belonged to my grandfather, and that's how it started, and it was driven by my uncle. Yeah.
Is it petrol or diesel?
It's a petrol one, yeah. Yeah.
About 3 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, getting in and out of that Thames Trader was hard enough, but I think
these weren't much better. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
But once you were in,
it
was fine. There was plenty of room, and
Yep.
And so you spent a whole day sort of climbing paddocks. Is this 4-wheel drive?
No, it's just a 2-wheel drive one. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Most of the area that we did was mainly dairy farms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it tended to be mostly flat going. Yeah.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah.
With me is Ian, and our next spreader up is a bit more versatile than the one we've seen. They're all been part of the truck or part of the tractor or part of the trailer, but this isn't.
No, this is a drop-on. This is a Hilton bin made in Christchurch, and the general carriers had these where you could use your truck for carting sheep or gravel, and then you could take your sides off and drop a sower bin on. We call them a drop-on. Bolts on, and fairly modern system, and still got to bolt your wheel gear on to get the drive for the chain. One spinner at the back, diesel motor, so quite modern.
Where's the motor?
Around the other side.
Oh, is it?
Around the other side. The diesel motor drives the spinner, and the chain drives the wheel gear drives the drag chain to drag the fertiliser out onto the spinner. Fairly simple, but
one spinner.
One spinner, single spinner. Got quite modern,
so
economising.
What's more modern about 1 over 2?
Well, I don't know. Less to go wrong, I suppose.
Okay.
But one spinner, it was quite an event to have only one spinner.
And it's chucked it just as far?
It did, yes. Yeah. The way the system was, where it dropped the line, dropped it onto 2 different parts of the spinner and fanned it out each side. Quite ingenious, but I see they've gone back to 2 spinners now. Probably more accurate.
So when was this, when the use by date for this? When
this is about 30 years old or so, this bin. We don't use it now. It's been in a shed for a long time. They probably went out of service when the 4-wheel drives came with the permanent bins. But the general carriers early days used to have a drop-on bin.
So if you only had one truck and you got all this work, so you've got a furniture van, a cattle crate,
sideboards, grain bin, and a sower, and a drop-on sower, so that your one truck could do all the jobs. Yes, yes, yeah.
Well, now we come to the up-to-date version, and Graham, welcome to our little show.
Hey, Bill.
And your rig's not very old.
Went on the road in October, November, end of October, beginning of November.
Wow.
So only 4 or 5 months.
So how many miles have you done since you've had it?
About 14,000 k's or something.
Good on you.
14 or 15 now, I think.
Yeah. So coming up to the modern spreader, we did look at the Garrity brothers some time ago, and they had a GPS layout of like going fishing. You see where you've been, and blah blah blah. And this is the same.
Yep. GPS tracking for proof of placement, fertiliser. It's a common thing now with new machines. Most of the modern gear have got it now. A lot of tractors and things.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that doing it for you? Don't have to think.
No, you still have to think whether you're programming the density of fertiliser, you've still got to put all of the stuff in. The track map is a guidance system, so there's no overlapping of the products so much now. You get normal, even flow, and it's a lot more efficient. Not a waste of fertiliser like there used to be in the past.
Yeah, like all some of those machines we saw, you know. Good luck.
Yeah. No, this is a lot more accurate. Twin chain, you get 2 chains, can spread left or right and shut one side off, the other side.
The one before, we've sussed this, we're down to 1 spinner. So that didn't last long because I see we've come back to 2 again.
Yeah, some of them still in the South Island, some of them still like the single spinners.
Oh, okay.
What their reasoning is, I have no idea. No. It's probably a preference.
Sure. So you tow a trailer and you've got this as well. So this is your load for a job.
Yep, fully self-sufficient. Well, we do have feeder trucks if required on the big tonnage, but I can get up to about 17 tonne of product in there.
Yep.
And a legal 5 in here, but off-road I can push it out to about 8 tonne if I'm in the paddock.
Sure.
If we're doing line.
Right. And so when you get there, you just disconnect this and unload this one.
Yep.
And come back and then load this into that.
Yep. This here lifts up at the back, and it's the same principle as the truck with the automat thing. There's a mat on the floor. You tip the product on top of the mat. It lifts up at the back and it rolls around the drum and just unloads into the truck.
And is the truck telling you how much it's on it?
No, well, normally we know how much off our first loads, whether we're being accurate or not. But yeah, we know how much product we got in there. So at the end of it, our computer should say, righty, I've put 17 tonne on there. Should tell me at the end of it that I spread 17 tonne.
And where you spread it.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
And so can the farmer check on you?
Oh yes.
At any time during all of this?
Yep. Well, if he can have a map of everything that I've done. If I come in here and spread all of this farm, and they can actually, it's got to the point now that they can send us a map of their property, and we want this paddock here done and that one there, not that one, but the one behind the trees, and they can send a map to our office and they can download it onto our track map. He doesn't have to even be here. We can come down the road, I can load it in on the computer, I can come down the road, and as I'm coming up to the paddock, it'll come up onto the screen, coloured map, boom, here. This one, that one, and that one.
And you're away.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's certainly made it easier.
It certainly have.
Yeah.
So, you know, how much hard work back in the day you're shoveling and you're pushing and you're doing starting bloody engines with you bastard, you know.
Like that?
Yeah.
No, nothing like that. Oh, they still have their hiccups, like they can break.
So.
Yeah, they'll occasionally, very rare now, but they'll still break chains and things, but not like they used to.
Run from the truck engine?
Yep, everything's PTO, and everything's computer controlled. The only thing that I alter is the gate in the back for the different products, like agricultural lime and things. Sure. Just open the hole up.
So I'm not being a smart bastard, but do you have to wear a hard hat while you're driving the truck doing this?
No.
Thank you.
No. No. Seatbelt.
Seatbelt, yeah, of course.
Yeah.